Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear students. Welcome to another tutorial on Adobe Animate CC 2020. In this tutorial we're gonna discuss and demonstrate how to create animation in Adobe Animate CC. Animate is a very powerful application or software to create animations, and we are gonna start by discussing or explaining how many types of animations we have. So I'm gonna start with a new file. Okay, we're gonna stick to this standard HD or normal HD, not full HD, and then I'm gonna just go here, fit to window. So basically, what is animation? Animation, it has many definitions you can find in Google or anywhere, but usually animation is you can define it as an illusion of motion, or you can define it as breathing life into objects, or it is a continuous sequence of frames or images play after each other in a certain speed in which the eye cannot recognize that you have different images. Anyway, we are not here to define the animation, we are here to show you how to create animation in Adobe Animate CC. So basically there is a very important concept about animation that you need to know, and I guess you know it from the discussions that we had about animation principles. So I'm going to go to the notepad and just remind you with that. So there are three things you need to keep them in mind when you create animation. We have something called a keyframe and a frame and the tweening. So the keyframes, or the keyframe, as we discussed earlier in Animate, is where you insert your media or elements. So any elements or all your elements, media is gonna go inside a keyframe. It's not gonna be in the frame. Okay, sorry, this is a spelling mistake. Okay, so frame, we use it just to extend the visibility of our media. So we are not gonna basically put something into a frame. So again, usually I use paint to draw to you, so I'm gonna go here. So for example, if we have a keyframe like this, okay, and we have another keyframe like this, so this is, we're gonna say keyframe 1, and this is, we are gonna say keyframe 2, and this is at 0 seconds and frames only, and this is after, let's say, 5 seconds, so it's gonna be 5 0 0. So here we are gonna have the rectangle. I'm gonna just make it red like this, and I'm gonna copy paste it. Sorry, I'm gonna just select this rectangle, copy paste, and I'm gonna move it that way. I'm gonna rotate it. Okay, oh, not rotation, it's not gonna be obvious. I'm gonna just scale it anyway. Okay, very simple animation. So at the beginning, this is the rectangle, and at the end this is the rectangle, and this is what we call how it's going to be the animation. And the software will be responsible for creating here this area, the in between frame. So here we have 5 seconds, which means if we have 30 FPS, it's going to be around 15 seconds, because 5 multiplied by 30, okay, it's going to be 150. So 150 frames, sorry, I mean 5 seconds, 150 frames, okay, 30 FPS, not 3. So who is going to be responsible for creating the in-between frames? So the rectangle is going to increase size or scale up gradually over this distance, and this is the process of tweening, which means tweening is the process of creating in between frames for your animation. Who's gonna do the tweening? The software is gonna do it for you. Okay, the software is gonna do this for you. So basically, now keyframe, we put our objects. The frames are gonna hold the in between frames, and the tweening is the process of creating these in between frames. Okay, in Animate CC we have several types of animations. We have the old way of animation, which is called classic tween. we have the new way of animation, which is called motion tween, which is if I remember the history, it's introduced in Adobe Flash CS4. It was the name of animate was Flash before. Okay, and the other type of animation, and the third one is gonna be the shape tween. These are the general things. Of course, you can create character animation using bone tool and so on, but these are the three animation types we are gonna cover in this lesson, and we're gonna start about classic tween. Anyway, we are not gonna go in detail for each one of those because I'm gonna make a separate video for each later on. But in this tutorial, we are gonna learn how to create animation and animate, as I said before. So we're gonna start with the classic tween. So how do we create a classic tween? Before that, you need to remember one thing. Classic tweens, motion tweens, they don't work on shapes. They don't work on drawings, in other words. They work on symbols. So your drawing must be converted into a symbol in order to be able to apply classic or motion tween to it. Okay? If you didn't do this and you try to apply the motion tween or a classic tween, the program will convert it for you. Okay? Let's see this now in action. So I'm gonna select this. Okay, I'm gonna create this polygon, blue one. So this is the first keyframe. So as I said, we need to convert this into a symbol, and I'm gonna press F8, and I'm gonna convert this into a graphic for now. Okay, and I'm gonna name it polygon graphic. And now to create an animation, as I said, we should have at least two keyframes, the starting and the ending state of the animation. So I'm going to go to the first second. I'm going to press F6, not F5, and I'm going to have the second keyframe. Of course, for the animation to happen, you need to change something in your object. You need to change its position, its scale, rotation, opacity, anything. Do you have to do this? If you want to see some change, you should do this, but you don't have to do this. You can keep the object exactly the same in two keyframes, but basically I'm not gonna have any change here. Okay, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just simply move this to the other side, and you see now at the end it's here. So we have one keyframe, two keyframe. So as I said, these frames are these frames are just a continuation of this keyframe until we get another keyframe. So to create a classic tween, simply right click anywhere between these two keyframes and select classic tween. Okay, you see the color changes, and you're gonna have this continuous arrow. If this arrow is continuous, it means your classic tween is working. If it is dotted line, it means you have problem or issues with your classic tween and it's not working properly, or it's not going to work properly. So I'm going to press enter to play, and simply I created an animation. Of course, more complex animations needs more practice. Okay, and again, you can refer to the video about animation principles that we discussed before, and you're going to see that we have pose to pose animation, and which is basically the classic tween, because you're going to have one pose and you're going to have another pose, and the software is going to change them. You're going to use this for lip syncing, for talking, blinking eyes, flying birds, and so on. Okay, and we don't really create a 1 second difference between them. Usually it's going to be frame by frame or frame. So we're going to use ones or twos or threes to create animation, which means in the frame number 1, frame number 3, frame number 5, 7, and so on. But this is a just quick definition, demonstration of the animation, and that's it. You see. Anyway, one more thing you need to remember: when you create an animation, you should have one object in the layer, not more than one object for the tween. Okay, so the tween must have one object. If you have two objects, you're gonna have problems, and you see when we are gonna drop this, you see here we're gonna have a problem with the classic tween. You might say, but it is moving. Yeah, it is moving because they're gonna be considered as one single tween. Okay, and you see these dotted lines. These dotted lines indicate that you have a problem here. Okay, that you have a problem. So you don't do it. Always keep one object in one layer. You see now the classic tween is okay. As I said, when it is dotted, it means you have an issue, even though you sometimes see it okay. Now what if you want to have two objects? You need to go inside here, and I'm gonna duplicate this, you see, and I'm gonna have two objects basically. Now when you go back, you can have two objects moving with each other, or you can just make them one beside each other, not over each other. Okay, so it's way better to create this, because now this is a one symbol or one instance of this symbol, the polygon GR. We talked about symbol in a separate video. You can always refer to it on my YouTube channel. So this is basically the classic tween. Okay, I'm gonna undo, and just I'm gonna keep one object. Okay, now what can I change, or what? Yeah, classic tween is gonna apply what exactly? The position, the scale, all of them. What exactly we can change? You can change all the properties except one thing, the shape, of course, because it is not a shape between. If you want to change the shape, its fill, its stroke, and animate them, you have to apply a shape tween. But for other things, like all the transformations, like the effects, the filters, everything available here in the property panel, you can animate it. So for example, we did the animation to the position. I'm gonna click this and change the scale a little bit, and I'm gonna rotate it. Okay, what else can we do here? As you can see, you can change the skew if you want a little bit. So all these things are gonna be affected by the classic tween, you see. And you might say, but oh, just wait a minute, you just changed the shape. No, we did not. We changed its transformation. We skew it, scale it, rotate it, and change its position. We didn't do any shape things. You cannot change the color. So for example, if you go here, you see you change the color, it's not going to change. Why? Because you cannot change the color of an object like this. You have to go inside the object and change the color like that. Okay, and now you say, okay, fine, I did it. Okay, you did it, but you did it for both keyframes. Okay, so as you can see here, you cannot change. As I said, classic tween is not used to change or to animate fill, strokes, or the shape itself. Okay, so I'm gonna undo to make it blue again. So what about the color effects? Can I animate them? Yes, you can. You can apply a color effect, like for example an alpha here, and at the end you say I'm gonna fade this out. Again, I'm gonna select an alpha, I'm gonna just go like this. Okay, you see? Okay, not necessarily this. You can change the other settings. I'm gonna go for tint, for example here, and then over time I'm gonna change this tint to be red as an example. Okay, so you see here it is red, and it is blue, and it's going to be red. So this is here, it's blue. If you go to the alpha, you can just make it like this, and then it's going to be visible. At this keyframe, I click, I have 0 alpha, I have blue tint. At that keyframe, I have red tint and 100 alpha. Okay, you see. Of course, if you apply two more than one color effect, you are gonna have these issues, because they are related to each other, all the color effects. But sorry, not the advanced, the alpha. But you see here, you come up with 100 again. Okay, because the color effects are all treated as a single keyframe. And how do you know this? If you try to right click here, let me show you. When you insert a keyframe, or it might be only visible with it's going to be only visible with the motion tweens. When you can select which keyframe basically you have to select, or you want to view, sorry. Okay, is it a position, scale, rotation, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is a classic tween basically. If you are an old user of Flash or Animate Flash, basically, because It's since CS4, it's since Flash CS4, which was a long time ago, I think 2010 or 9, it's introduced. So if you are an old user of Flash, old user, I say old user like 20 years ago, 15 years ago, you might still prefer classic tweens. If you are, if you know, you might prefer to use motion tween. Again, we didn't go in detail into classic tween. We're gonna talk about it in a separate video later on. But now, next, I'm gonna talk about motion tween. So I'm gonna delete this. I'm gonna delete, sorry, the whole the layer itself, and I'm gonna go to the library and drag this, sorry, symbol again here. Okay. So it is a symbol, so I'm gonna just right click and create a motion tween. The nice thing about motion tween, you don't have to create the second keyframe yourself. When you create a motion tween, it's very similar to the animation that you create in Adobe Premiere Pro or After Effects. When you turn on the stopwatch, and when you do changes over time, keyframes are going to be created automatically for you. Okay, so this is what you're going to do. You see, I don't have another keyframe, so I'm going to just move over time. As I say, you have to change over time. So I moved my time, I changed my time, then I'm going to change the property. I'm going to just make it here. Okay, you see now. Oh, sorry. Okay, this is the object, and this is the movement. Okay, you can hold shift to make sure that your movement is on a straight line, like this. Okay, you see, you can move and hold shift. It's going to be straight. You're not going to go move vertically up and down. So now the main, or the first difference that you can see, obviously, in motion tween that you didn't saw in classic tween, is this animation path, which is created automatically by the software when you do this animation. You might say, okay, what am I going to do with this animation path? This is very useful, basically, because you can click here. Okay, you can just go to the move and the move tool, okay, or selection tool, and then you just hover over the path. You see the mouse changes to a curve with an arrow, and then you can change the curve like that. Okay, as you see, you easily created this animation. So it is similar to, or it is, we can call it a spatial interpolation of our keyframes. Okay, and again, we can click here. If the animation, I'm gonna just go to the pen tool, to this. I can just click and drag to convert it into a Bezier curve, and you see now I can create this kind of animation easily, even though I have only 2 keyframes. As I said, it is similar to the animation that you create in After Effects, Premiere, 3D Max, or any animation software usually. Okay, so again, there is no good and bad. It depends on your scenario, what you want to do. If you are looking for a frame by frame animation, classic tween may be better for you to use. If you want to use to create animations like this along a path, being able to control the path, or applying, as we're going to discuss in a different video, the curve, or you view the curve editor of the animation to control the curvature of the speed and the values, you're gonna go for motion tween, because you cannot do this in classic tweens. Again, as I said, I can just go anywhere here. For example, I'm gonna select this. Let me just go to that, and I'm gonna increase the size, and you see here it's gonna be small, it's gonna be large or big, and it's gonna go small again. No, it's not gonna go small again. Why? Because basically animation usually, or by default, is gonna start from the beginning all the way to here. Okay, so here it didn't change, because here you change the scale, and you're gonna expect that it's gonna go small here. No, it's not. You have to do it yourself. And this is what I said a few seconds ago when I said in motion tween you can right click and basically view the keyframes that you want to display. So I'm not gonna view all of them. I'm gonna say none. You see, and I'm gonna go view the scale only. You see, now I'm viewing only the scale, so it's gonna start from here to there. There's no keyframe here. This is why it didn't change to small, because that keyframe was holding the value of the position only. Okay, again, to see this, I'm gonna just display the position and hide the scale. You see, the position is, I have these two keyframes. If I right click, view none, again right click, view for example rotation, I'm gonna have no keyframes. You might say, but what about this? This is the initial keyframe for the object itself, not for the animation. You should have at least one keyframe to add your element, as we explained at the beginning of this course. Okay, so this is basically motion tween. Simply, this is motion tween. Again, we are gonna discuss it in more detail in a separate tutorial. Okay, but I want you to practice each one of those and see how it works. Okay, try to create animations using these two techniques. Anyway, before we move to the third one, on the shape tween, again, what can we do, or what can we animate with motion tween? You can animate position, rotation, scale, anchor point, skew, anything here in the transformation panel, in addition to anything that the symbol provides. Since this symbol is a graphic symbol, we have only a color effect, but if you change this to a movie clip from here, properties, I'm going to change it to a movie clip. Okay, click, you still don't see it because it's still here a graphic, and now I'm going to change it to a movie clip, or you can do it directly from here, but I want to change the object itself, so when I drag instances, I don't have to do this every time. So you can go to the glow, for example. Okay, and you apply a glow for this. Okay, it's going sorry, I'm gonna make it 4. I'm gonna lock this to be like this. So you see, it's gonna be 0 at the beginning, and at the end I click, I increase it like that. Okay, still you don't see any keyframe even though you see the animation, because when you go to the view, you see here, you only see rotation, you can't see filter. Now if you see all, you're going to see all the keyframes, including your scale, everything else. Okay, these view are also applicable for the clearance, or for the deletion of the keyframes, and or for the insertion of the keyframe. So I can come here and say insert a keyframe, and I'm gonna specify which keyframe I want to select. If you press F6, basically the shortcut, you're gonna select all of them. You're gonna insert all of them, but you can select any certain type of the animation. Again, as I said, we're going to discuss this in a separate video. You can control this here in a better way. You see, here you see location X and Y, transform, scale X and Y, filters, glow. You have the blurs and all these values available for you. Okay, that you can change. You see, you have different values here, and this is the animation path. I'm gonna double click. Let me just go back like this. So what you cannot do with motion tween, just like classic tween, the shape, you cannot change the shape of the object, you cannot change its stroke, you cannot change its fill. Okay, so that's it for the motion tween. Now we're gonna go discuss the third lesson, the third type of animation, which is the shape tween. Basically, the shape tween is gonna affect shapes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a shape. You see here, I'm gonna create this shape. I have 1 second. I just zoomed in. So again, I have to create with shape tween, like classic tween, you have to create the keyframes manually yourself. So I'm gonna say, okay, here at this keyframe F6, I just need to move my shape to that side. Okay. Now right click, create shape tween. You see, different color but same arrow, just like classic tween. So colors are used here to give you an indication of which animation or which shape tween, which tween are you using. You see, oh, can I change the position of the shape? Yes, you can do this with shape tween. What about the scale? Can I make it smaller? Okay, can you do this? Sorry, we need to double click, so we select the scale with it, the stroke with it. Sure, you can do this. Why? Because it's related to the shape. Anything you can change when you have a shape selected, it's going to be animated. If you remember in the classic and the motion tween, when you select, you cannot change the color anyway, so this is why you cannot change the color in animation. But here you can change the positions, you can change even the rotation if you want. Okay, so I can do it like this. But now at the same time, what can I do is I can click here. You see, I'm gonna go to the selection tool here, or you can press V for shortcut. I can go and select a different color, solid red, and I can double click and change the stroke, and even change the stroke of the color of the stroke to, for example, maroon, or any color, this one for example. Okay, so you see here it was green. Let me increase the stroke so you see the difference in the stroke, or the change in the stroke. You see the stroke color is changing, as well as the fill color, is changing, and now I have this here. Okay, so this is basically the shape between. Not only this, we have very interesting things in shape between we can apply, but basically shape between can be applied to change from one shape to another. So can I change from, not only for this, you can change it basically from, you can use it to change one shape to another, like a box to a circle to something else, anything to anything. How can you do this? I'm gonna click here, double click and delete. You see now it's dotted line because we don't have another keyframe here. I'm gonna click and create a star. Basically, I'm gonna create this star here. Okay, let's just move it. Sorry, it's big, so I'm gonna go to Q shortcut and just make it smaller, and then we have a shape between directly. You see the arrow? So let me go to the beginning. Now you play, you see it is changing. Our Animate software will try its best to change the box to a star in a proper way. Okay, now you can change a star to anything else, any shape to any other shape, and this is basically called morphing in other applications, or even here. But this is a very powerful technique when you change one shape to another shape. Anyway, as you can see, the animates try to change the points and the anchor, the points and the rectangle to the points and the star, and we're going to talk about this when we're going to talk about shape hints. But for now, basically this is shape between. What else I can do with shape between? We said we can change the fill, we can change the stroke, we can change the shape, and we demonstrated all of those, or all of these things. I'm going to just move this here in the middle. I'm going to increase size. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger because I want to show you something. And here I'm going to copy and Control Shift V, paste. So basically, so far we don't have anything changed, but what I'm going to do is click. Let me look here. Oh no, I don't need to click here, it's already there. You see this gradient transform tool? I'm going to select this gradient transform tool. Basically, let me go first to the gradient. I'm going to make it linear gradient. Okay, sorry, I have to select it first. I have to select this first here, and then I go there and change it to a linear gradient. See, this is linear gradient now, and it was easier for me to copy paste, but anyway, linear gradient. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change the position of this gradient. You see, when I click, you can move it. I'm gonna press shift to avoid moving it vertically, and you see how it's gonna be. And here I'm gonna move it the other way around to the other side, and you see it's black, and when you move it, I'm gonna play, it's just gonna turn to green. Okay, anyway, if you have a gradient with many color like this is gonna be very nice. You see here I'm gonna have other colors or other gradients. Now they are exactly the same, because now you need to do what? Change it to this, and here I move it to the other side. Okay, and you see it's gonna change red. These things can use it to create some kind of transition basically, or anything, especially if this color is, if you go here and make this color transparent and this color transparent. Okay, you see here, you can't see anything, and then it's gonna be like transition, and then it is gonna change here again. I need to go, and as I said, if you copy paste it better, you have to do the settings for the shape and then you do the animation. You see here, it's transparent, and oops, here what's wrong? Let me go and check. Oh, I have okay, now it's transparent. I clicked by mistake, so I had another color which is red. Okay, and to make sure that this is not transparent, let's just create another layer and create a text, for example here, Tween, and this text is going to be, okay, where's the options? It's not dynamic, it's a static text. Okay, sorry, paragraph options. So I didn't see the fill here. The fill and the size, just increase it and then press and move. You see it's transparent now. Let me just put it behind. You see it's gonna be visible for, so you can use shape between to create some kind of a transition inside your animate without going to another application. Anyway, you can release your imagination, think outside the box, and see what you're gonna do with this. Basically, this also can be applied to stroke. Stroke is not an exception, so you can change the stroke of course. Okay, I can select the stroke and change its color and change its size. Oh, you see what if you make it dashed line with the smaller sizes, how it's gonna be. Let's try it. I'm gonna delete this, no need for that anymore. You see now the stroke is like this here and the stroke here like this. You see it's gonna change size and it's gonna turn into a dotted line. Okay, but the dotted line is gonna it's not gonna be a nice animation. It's not gonna show the difference. We can just make it 0 or without stroke. Basically you can just make it without stroke, so it's gonna change from a stroke to no stroke, from a stroke to no stroke, and this is also anyway. Now let's just demonstrate one trick before we finish. What if you want to change a text into a shape? So what do I mean by that? I'm gonna delete this and I'm gonna basically delete this. You see both my keyframes are empty now. What if I want to change this star here? Okay, let me select the star and give it a color. This star, I want to change it to a name, okay, which is here. I'm gonna just click and say I want to change to a shape Tween. I'm gonna increase the size. I'm gonna make it big, even bigger, 150. Okay, and okay, this is a color. So now, even though we have two keyframes, our shape between is not fixed, still we have an issue. Can you say the reason? Basically, if you go back to the definition of the shape between, it is a tween that is applied to shapes. So this is a shape. When you click, you can see these dots, which means it's a shape. But what about this? When I click here, it's not a shape. I cannot see the dots. If I double click, I'm gonna go inside the text, so it's not a shape. You cannot change from shape to an object in shape between. So can I change this into a shape? Yes, you can do this, of course. You need to break it apart. You can break apart using the main menu from here. You can break apart, or you can select and go to the tool. You can do it from here. I'm not sure if you can do it from here, but see, you cannot. Anyway, I don't usually do any of these things. I usually do the shortcut, which is Control B. When you break it apart, you see, you're gonna break your text apart into smaller object, still not shapes. You see, now they are S, H, so each letter is, or each character is converted into a text box, but we need to select them both and select them all, sorry, and then click apart again, Control B. Now they are converted into a shape. You see the dots, but unfortunately you will not be able to change them. So if you made a spelling mistake, you're not going to be able to change it. You have to redo the same process. So make sure that your text is properly spelled and everything's fixed. The size you can change it, but everything else is okay. Now you see I have the shape between fixed. Now this is going to be the result. I'm gonna change the star to this. Why this is happening? Because anyway, here we have how many points? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points only. But here we have many points, and if you want to see the points, you kind of click this, and you see, or select this, and you see while you are selecting, you have many points making the shape of the text. So these 10 points are going to be changed to these many points. This is why this effect will happen. Anyway, as I said, you can use a technique called shape hints. We're going to discuss in a separate tutorial, but it's not going to be that easy, especially if you have many number of points. Okay, that's it for animation. Just remember a few things. Motion tween and the classic tween is meant to animate object transformation and properties like color effects, filters, if applicable. Shape between is used to change or to animate the object shape, or the shape itself, the shape and the shape color, fill color, and stroke. Okay, for all the tweens you need to have one object, special for the classic tween and motion tween, one object per layer, and we are gonna also discuss this when we in next tutorials, basically when we explain or demonstrate other examples on animation techniques in Adobe Animate CC. So I hope this video was useful and you enjoyed it. You learned the differences between classic, motion, shape between. Now it's your choice to select one of those 3 animation or 3 tween methods based on your needs. Thank you very much. See you in the next tutorial and have a nice day.